It's week 3 in the NFL season, and here are my predictions for the week. But first, how did I do in week 2? In week 2, I was 9-7 in my predictions. Kicking off the week on Thursday night is the 1-1 New York Giants versus the 2-0 San Francisco 49ers. The Niners are favored by 10 points. In week 2, Daniel Jones threw for 321 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And the Giants came back from being down by 21. In that game also, Saquon Barkley sprained his ankle and is questionable. And for the Niners, Christian McCaffrey had 20 carries with 116 yards and a touchdown. And the Niners will win. Now moving over to Sunday, we have the 1-1 Tennessee Titans versus the 1-1 Cleveland Browns. And the Browns are also 3-point favorites in this game. For the Titans, Ryan Tannehill completed 20 of 24 passes for 246 yards and a touchdown. And Derrick Henry had 25 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. And Treylon Burks had 3 receptions for 76 yards. For the Browns, Nick Chubb suffered a severe knee injury and will be out for the rest of the season. And their backup running back, Jerome Ford, stepped in and had 16 carries for 106 yards and will now be the starter. Despite the loss to the Steelers, the Browns still have an elite defense. Their defense only gave up 12 points this week and also only gave up 3 points in week 1. But the Browns still lost because their offense gave up a pick 6 and a fumble returned for a touchdown. The Browns probably are going to go out and sign another running back, but I would love if they traded for Jonathan Taylor. The Browns are still going to win this week. Next, the 1-1 Indianapolis Colts versus the 2-0 Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are currently 8-point favorites. Last week, Anthony Richardson suffered a concussion after scoring his second rushing touchdown of the game. And Gardner Minshew stepped in and was 19 of 23 with 171 yards and a touchdown. And the Colts defense also had 6 sacks. But the Ravens will win this game. Next is the 0-2 Broncos versus the 2-0 Dolphins. Right now, the Dolphins look like the best team in the AFC and will win this game. Next, the 0-2 New England Patriots versus the 1-1 New York Jets. The Patriots are 2.5-point favorites. In week 2, Zach Wilson threw 3 interceptions versus Dallas. And I have the Patriots getting their first win of the season. Next is the 1-1 Buffalo Bills versus the 2-0 Washington Commanders. The Bills are 6.5-point favorites in this game. Last week, Josh Allen was 31 of 37 passing with 274 yards and 3 touchdowns, and James Cook had 17 carries for 123 yards. Last week, the Commanders came back from being down 21-3 and beat the Denver Broncos. But the Bills are still going to win this game. The 2-0 Atlanta Falcons are going against the 1-1 Detroit Lions, who are 3-point favorites. In week 2, Bijan Robinson had 19 carries for 124 yards and 4 receptions for 48 yards. Also, Younghoe Koo was 4 for 4 in field goal attempts. And for the Lions, Jared Goff had 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. This should be a very fun matchup and could be a very close game. I think the Falcons will win this game. Next, the 2-0 Saints are taking on the 1-1 Packers. I have the Packers winning this game. Next, the 0-2 Texans versus the 1-1 Jaguars. The Jags are favored by 9.5 points. In week 2, CJ Stroud had a really good game with 384 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Nico Collins had 7 receptions for 146 yards and a touchdown. And for the Jaguars, Christian Kirk had 11 receptions for 110 yards. And the Jaguars will win this game. Next, the 0-2 Chargers versus the 0-2 Vikings. In week 2, Justin Herbert had 305 yards passing with 2 passing touchdowns. And Keenan Allen had 8 receptions for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. And their defense had 5 sacks. For the Vikings, Kirk Cousins had 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Justin Jefferson had 11 receptions for 159 yards. I could see this game being very high scoring. I think the Vikings will win this game. Next, the 0-2 Panthers are taking on the 1-1 Seahawks, who are favored by 5.5 points. I think the Seahawks will win the game. The 2-0 Cowboys are going against the 0-2 Cardinals. The Cowboys are 12-point favorites going into this game, and their defense has been dominant this season and looks like it could be a historic defense. Through the first 2 weeks, they have allowed only 10 points. In week 1, they shut out the Giants and held the Jets to only 10 points. And the Cowboys will win. The 0-2 Bears are going against the 1-1 Chiefs. They are 12.5-point favorites, and the Chiefs will win. The 1-1 Steelers are going against the 1-1 Raiders. The Steelers' defense was great versus the Browns in week 2. They had 6 sacks and a pick 6 and a fumble recovery return for a touchdown. And George Pickens had 4 receptions for 127 yards, and they will win. Moving over to Monday Night Football, we have a great matchup with the 2-0 Eagles versus the 2-0 Buccaneers. The Eagles are 5.5-point favorites. Last week, Baker Mayfield had a great game. He was 26 of 34 passing with 317 yards and a touchdown. Mike Evans also had a great game with 6 receptions, 171 yards, and a touchdown. And also, he had a 70-yard reception during the game. And second-year running back Rachaad White had 17 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. And their defense also had 6 sacks and a pick 6. Baker Mayfield has been great so far this season. And before the season started, I made a video on why I think he'll lead the Buccaneers to the playoffs this season. And if you'd like, please check that video out. For the Eagles, Jalen Hurts had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Devontae Smith had 4 receptions for 131 yards and a touchdown. I think this will be a very close game, and that the Buccaneers will pull off the upset and remain undefeated. And the final game of the week, the 1-1 Rams versus the 0-2 Bengals. For the Rams, the rookie 5th-round pick Puka Nacua had 15 receptions for 147 yards. And already has 25 receptions in his career through 2 weeks, which is the most receptions in a player's first 2 games. And Joe Burrow re-aggravated his calf injury, and the Rams will win. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye.